Hi, my name is Dan Layden. I'm a network consultant engineer for the PDI Help Desk. This presentation is on embedding asynchronous drivers into the ESXi 5.0 installation ISO. ESX has a set number of drivers that are included with the ESXi 5.0 ISO. The list of drivers and the associated driver version can be found at the VMware site for the VMware hardware compatibility list at the URL that's mentioned here. ESXi does not allow for the installation of additional drivers at the time of install. If a driver is required and not available, the installation will fail. An example of this is installing ESXi 5 on a SAN boot run where you're using a Cisco P81E VIC. The driver on the installation media is an older unsupported version. With ESXi, they've simplified the process to embed updated drivers into the ISO. This video is to showcase that process. The reference document for this presentation is from VMware, and it's the installing async drivers on ESXi 5.0, and the link to that document is provided here as well. Looking at the VMware compatibility guide for ESX5 and the Cisco P81E network card, we'll see here on the screen that there's two drivers available for that are recognized by VMware. And one of them here is listed as inbox, and one of them is listed as async. The inbox driver is the one that's available on the ISO media. This one happens to be an unsupported driver from Cisco. And if you try to use it to install to a SAN boot, the installation will fail. We'll see that in a moment. Looking at the Cisco hardware and software interoperability matrix for C-Series servers for release 1.4. For this particular slide, we can see for a C200 where the P81E VIC is being used in vSphere 5.0. It requires the 1.5.0.6 FNIC driver. As we saw on the previous slide, the inbox driver is a prior release and unsupported by Cisco. If you take the native ESXi 5.0 ISO from VMware and use it to install or attempt to install to a SAN boot that's accessed via the Cisco P81E VIC, you'll see the output as shown in this slide here, or this video of the process being done, concluding with a PSOD screen where ESXi crashed. In the second clip, I'm referencing VMware documentation about how to embed an asynchronous driver into the ESXi 5.0 ISO. So in this process, I'll reference that document, download the appropriate files to complete that task, and then use those files to generate an ESXi 5.0 ISO with updated Cisco async drivers, and proceed with installing ESXi to a SAN boot run successfully. To complete the process of generating our custom ISO, we will need the vSphere 5 PowerCLI EXE. We will need the ESXi offload bundle for ESX5, and we'll need the Cisco async driver for the P81E. The time to download these files can be quite lengthy, so I went ahead and downloaded them prior to creating this video. So I'll go through the process of locating the files at VMware site, initiate the download, and then once they've all started to download, I'll cancel the downloads and reference the files I already have on my desktop. If one is going to be installing ESXi 5.0 using the VMware provided ISO, they would download the ISO image. In our case, we're going to download the offload bundle and reference that in creating our custom ISO file. Next, I'm accessing the VMware vSphere PowerCLI 5.0 utility. This is found at VMware site under Drivers and Tools and Automated Tools and SDKs. VMware site will maintain drivers from multiple vendors and actually may contain multiple drivers for the same device from a vendor. When reviewing it for your production environment, you're going to want to refer to the documentation to find out what is a supported version. If I had been doing this for a production environment, I would have chose driver 1506, as that's what's listed in the hardware compatibility matrix. But in this example, I chose 1507. At this point, I've initiated downloads for all three files. The drivers are actually already downloaded, but the PowerCLI and the ESXi offload bundle will take some time to download. Rather than waiting, I'll just cancel the downloads and reference the files that I already downloaded for this presentation. Proceed with installing the PowerCLI 5.0 executable. I use default values in my installation for this presentation. Unzip the ethnic driver download. Within that zipped file is a offline bundled zip file which we will reference when generating our custom ISO. If this is the first time you've used the PowerCLI utility, the default settings on your workstation will probably prevent you from running remotely signed scripts. So we will need to run an additional command to allow the utility to run the scripts to generate the ESXi custom ISO. The first command we need to run is to embed the async driver into the ESXi offload bundle. The command is listed on the screen here. The command add ESX software depot, the name and location of your async driver, and name of and location of the offline bundle. And then in my exact environment here, that's the command I ran to execute this command. The next command we run is get-ESX software package. This will give us a list of all the packages that are in the offline bundle, and we should see a reference to the EFNIC driver we just installed. You would see additional entries here if you had installed additional drivers into the offline bundle. The next command we're running is a get-ESX image profile. This will give us a list of the profiles that are predefined in the offline bundle. The next command we're running is new-ESX image profile space dash clone profile space the name of the existing profile space dash name space the new profile name we're providing space dash vendor space a vendor name. So in my particular case, the command I ran was new-ESX image profile space dash clone profile space ESXi 5.0 469512 standard space dash name space ESXi 5.0 469.512-P81E-1.5.0.7 space dash vendor space Cisco. When initially creating this presentation, I used a rather long name for my profile and see that it wrapped. It didn't fit in that column, so I went ahead and created a second profile with a shorter name and ignored the first one. So you may want to consider the length of your file name to prevent issues down the road, because we will have to reference that name in later stages. The next command we run is add-ESX software package --image profile. The name of our profile that we had created earlier, --software package, and the name of the ethnic driver that we saw that was installed in the offline bundle. In my case, the command was add-ESX software package --image profile ESXi 5.0.0 -469.512 -P81E 1.5.0.7 software package SCSI ethnic. Next, I ran the command export-ESX image profile image profile, the name of the profile I created earlier, export to ISO file path, and a name of an ISO file that I'll be writing it to. In my particular case, I did export-ESX image profile image profile ESXi 5.0.0 -469.512 -P81E 1.5.0.7 export to ISO file name, and then my file name. Once we've completed the process of embedding the asynchronous driver into the ESXi offload bundle, we have a new ISO, and next I'll proceed with installing this ESXi 5.0 to the SAN boot using this new ISO file that has the updated driver. Once the ESXi installation is completed with our custom ISO file and reboots, and we access the ESXi CLI line, we can query the system to tell us what ethnic driver version is being used, and we see that we're using a 1507 driver, which is the one that we embedded into ESX, versus the ethnic driver which is provided by VMware. So at this point, ESX is installed with the new driver and accessing the boot LUN. And that concludes our presentation.